Thank you for joining us tonight. We are talking about the coronavirus, specifically here in Nashville. But if you have questions that you would like to ask just about the virus itself, go ahead and give us a call. We have a great expert answering those questions tonight, Dr. Alex Jahangir. He is the chairman for Metro's Coronavirus Task Force. Dr. Jahangir, thank you again for joining us. A lot of folks online are talking about outdoor sports. They want to play. They want their kids to play. What's your advice on that?
You know, I think within reason that's okay. I think the biggest worry around outdoor sports is the following. So sharing equipment, big things sometimes may help spread the virus. Kids in a dugout really close may be a problem. But more so all the spectators, right? The bleachers, the yelling. I mean, we should think through how does one maybe minimize that. My sister-in-law was telling me about that. Her son's in Little League now hangs out 25 bands or something per team, and that's the way they are allowed to watch the game, and they're spread out their chairs. And I mean, these are fair things. You know, when you talk about football, again, kids are a lot of asymptomatics. A friend of mine is the Arkansas State team doctor. And he called me this weekend because our state showed up. This is all national news now, so I'm not divulging anything secret. Anyone starts freaking out here. But he called me this weekend to tell me this, or last weekend, I guess, is 70 football players showed up on campus. And as a precaution, they tested all of them. 7 of the 70 tested positive for COVID, not asymptomatic. And those 7 didn't heed my friend's warning to wait until the test comes back before you socialize with your team members. And now a big chunk of the team has to be quarantined for 2 weeks.
Wow.
And so this isn't a joke. Football and other things that are close have a higher risk of transmission. I know there are, again, a lot of smart people who deal with those, with sports and try to figure out in sports medicine, try to figure out how best to minimize this risk. But it's not benign, and I think listen, my kid loves being outside and playing sports. Basketball, really close basketball is a problem. So I wish I had the greatest answer, but it's not because we're trying to be mean, but those are the reasons why we just need to slow it down just a little bit.
I want to hop to the phone lines real quick. Julie has a question for you. Julie, go ahead.
Hi, Doctor. I read an article today that the WHO came out with, the WHO came out with a finding that asymptomatics aren't really transmitting the disease. I know some experts from Harvard came out and expressed some skepticism towards that assertion. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, thank you. That's very relevant to. I just read that right before this show. I'll tell you what one of the smartest people I know is sitting on this issue, Dr. Hildreth, Meharry thinks, and I think it's probably what the Harvard people are saying. I haven't read the Harvard people's skepticism yet. Is until there's really the research that if their research has been peer reviewed, if it's been tried, if others can replicate the same findings. Great. Wouldn't that be a great finding? But if it's just, I haven't read the WHO report and looked at their sources and details, so I hate to speak authoritatively on it. But if it is just 1 or 2 people giving a kind of anecdotal story, I'm a little more skeptical. So I think anything that comes out on this virus, look at the source. And again, WHO is usually a pretty reputable source. Look at the studies they've done and look if it's been replicated and peer reviewed. Meaning lots of people have looked at it independently. If it's been all that, then great. But if it's just one person just saying something and they just happen to have a big title, you don't have the research behind it, I would still proceed as if asymptomatic people can transmit it.
That's good information of how to read these studies, because they seem to be coming out of everywhere right now. Perry's on the line. Perry, go ahead.
Yes, this is something that's been bothering me. When you get a test, and for the COVID, it seems like that test is only good for the half hour around when you get the test, because you could become infected in the next hour.
Yeah.
And then, it really wouldn't make any difference what your test said. So just need an explanation on that.
Yeah. Perry, I understand what you're saying, because again, there's always been that big push. Go get tested. Go get tested.
Yeah. So Perry, what the test that the one you put the swab in your nose does is it looks for RNA of the virus. So you're right. It only will tell you if you've actively infected at that moment, right? But I guess one way you can look at it is you can kind of hit a restart. If you get a negative test, then you don't have the virus. And so moving forward, I mean, do the things we talked about: social distance, wash your hands, try not to be around people that are infected. But you're right. You can get a test today. It's negative. You can go hang out at a concert tomorrow and get the virus, and you have to get another test. So really a test is exactly that. It's a test for a moment in time. And it just kind of hits a reset and lets you know if you have it and need to be treated a certain way. But you're absolutely right about that. But it's just no different than any other test, right? So it's like taking, a flu test. If you get a flu test and you're negative, you may very quickly get a flu test the next day because you got the flu in the grid. So it's just like any other test. But
I think it just draws
actually,
frustration, because when the push really started, go get tested, we need more people tested. It wasn't like actually it was going to solve anything, though.
Well, I would disagree. I think the reason we were pushing to get people tested is we don't know how often the virus is in our community, right? So if a bunch of people in our community have the virus and we know that, then we can take steps to minimize that. If we now have a steady state of knowing that, all right, about 9.5% of tests are positive in our community, and this was when we were shut down, as we start opening, that's another number I'm looking at. We've been at 9.5% of people that tested are positive for a long time. That shows that there's a steady state in this virus in our community, and it's not getting more rampant or less rampant. Obviously, we'd like to get less rampant, and if we test more people and the number goes down, then that shows that, hey, the virus isn't spreading. So yeah. I think the only way to make an invisible virus visible is by testing. So I think that it's important to get tested.
Okay, we have about a minute left. I want to kind of go back to where we started, of where Nashville stands right now when we look at those parameters that you're looking at every day. Tell us where we are.
Well, everything is looking good. Hospital capacity, testing capacity, public health infrastructure, transmission rate. Our 14-day trend has headed up slightly. What we're doing right now is just watching a few more days of data to come in to make sure it's maybe at a new steady state. Again, if everything else is okay and we're at a little higher number that's stable, then let's go forward and move on to the next stage. But if all of a sudden we're seeing a huge spike, which again, we haven't seen a huge spike, but it has gone up, then we may need to slow down.
Dr. Jahangir, I always appreciate your transparency and, of course, your wisdom on this. We really appreciate you spending an hour with us.
Really a pleasure. Thank you.
All right. We'll see you again soon, hopefully. And we'll be right back to wrap things up. Stay with us.